Hey there, internets. This is Kyle. Welcome to another edition of the My Business Launch Secrets YouTube channel. We're on day 66, I believe, of the journey from $0 to $1 million and starting a new online business from scratch. Doing so part-time because I still got a day job, still got a family to feed, and other responsibilities to take care of. Today, on the continuing ongoing saga, let's talk about whether or not I even want to do what I'm doing, I guess, or what I'm planning to do. As I think mentioned a couple of 2 or 3 videos ago, that in a recent Marketing Secrets podcast that I was listening to by Russell Brunson, he sort of called out not exactly my target audience, but close enough to who I have felt I will be targeting, and called out that audience as being a very bad choice of a customer base for starting a new business, because they're, I guess, just notoriously bad at actually buying anything, especially online stuff. And that group was talking about engineers. He was just referencing kind of engineers in general, and my target audience is specifically PhD level engineers, scientists, technical folks as well, mainly because that's what I am. So that's who I feel I can most relate to from a professional career perspective. And that's the focus of what I believe I want to offer services around, basically, is helping people in their careers. And, I heard that, and again, as I remarked on the other video, I again understand where he's coming from, but just felt that I need to continue on with the path that I'm already on. I mean, I do have significant amount of time invested in terms of trying to figure out the strategy for what I'm doing, and setting the whole strategy of what the business is and what the what the business name is, and what the focus of the business is going to be, then what the podcast itself, what the name of that is going to be. I mean, and these seem like kind of trivial things, I guess, but there is definitely a lot of thought, at least, that I put into some of these decisions about how I'm kind of overall structuring the path forward. And, I'm still in a kind of building up, even though I would say I have a good overall framework of understanding this is what I want to build. I'm certainly still in a building phase to try to get there and be able to more or less kind of release it to the world, to the masses on a grand scale, and start, pushing out a bunch of content on the social media channels and all that fun stuff to start to drive traffic. So I'm not there yet, so I haven't invested tons of time, and I've certainly not really invested much money in terms of, advertisements or these sorts of things. The money I've invested thus far that is specific to the business that I'm currently planning is relatively minor. I mean, I bought some web domains that are specific to my niche and the company name, etc. But it's not a ton of money in general. I mean, maybe $100 in total of money specifically kind of dedicated to supporting this idea I have. All the other money I've spent is kind of a little bit more generic to, tools that I needed or trainings that I paid for that are applicable to whatever business I would actually end up moving forward with. And anyway, I guess something else today that sort of got me thinking about this was, one, again, there's at least a couple of companies I know, probably more. I haven't done extensive research, but at least a couple of companies that I've found, small businesses that are already sort of working in this field of targeting either engineers or even PhD level people in general, helping them, and their services are helping them with their career in one way or another. And so I looked at that as being like, okay, well, that's, again, as Russell says, you definitely want to go into a market where there is competition out there already to some degree, because if there's literally nobody competing in that market in this day and age, that probably means that service ain't going to sell to whoever you think might be buying it, because at this point, probably somebody would have figured that out and is already working in that area. So there's nobody. That's like a bad sign. Run away. You don't want to try to go after an audience that's just like non-existent, basically, or at least totally unwilling to buy what you are wanting to sell. And so, Russell basically says, like, hey, you need to pick a market that you see, like, there are tons of people buying whatever it is you think you might be offering, because that shows you that there's a very hungry audience out there for that type of product. And so then the only thing you have to do is figuring out how do you angle yourself and your marketing, slightly different, so that you can start to, pull some of the people that are already buying that thing from somebody else, but then pull them into your overall sphere of services and products and whatnot. Of course, then the flip side of that is that you can say, well, if you're going to a market that already has like tons of competition, then and they're like well-established players, then that's also not like a great idea. So the counter argument is that's not a great idea, because if there are established like market leaders in that field, then by coming in as a new player, all you're really going to be doing is kind of picking up the scraps of what's left over in the market. Your chances of really pulling a lot of people away from whoever they're already working with very established businesses, your ability to pull them away is going to be relatively limited. So you're only going after probably a much smaller pool of people that might still kind of be looking around for different options for whatever the need is that you're trying to fulfill on. So, it gets a little kind of murky there, frankly, in terms of if you listen to some of these folks, Russell Brunson and various others, in terms of trying to understand, like, so should I really be going this way into this market or not? Or is it too big, or is it not big enough? Like, I don't know. I guess there's some sweet spot maybe in terms of you want to at least show that there's some interest, there's a lot of interest, quote unquote, but not like total market domination by some huge player, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, getting back to, again, the field have been working towards, which is providing like career development types of services, coaching, whatever, trainings for PhD level people. And there's two companies I found. One of them seems like a really small operation, like one dude, more or less, it seems, kind of doing everything, solopreneur type of business. And I guess he's doing fine. I don't know. I signed up for some freebie, and so I'm on his email list, and he's relatively consistent with his marketing pushes through the email, and so it seems like he's got things organized and is having some success. He's got a lot of testimonials on his website, so it seems like he does a good job at the services he's providing. But this other business is definitely a bit more established. They've been around for, I think, since, about 9 years ago, whatever that is, 2013 or something. And, just by browsing their website, they've got a decent-sized staff, 20 or 30 people on staff, still more or less led by the founder and CEO guy, who is kind of their face of all their marketing, and he's their charismatic leader or whatever, attractive character you want to call him. And they're doing all the, typical digital marketing things that you would expect from a, virtual online-based business. And, it wouldn't surprise me if he's probably following a lot of Russell Brunson's methods and what he's doing, because it definitely seems very familiar. And anyway, so today when I had some downtime, I just started researching this company a little bit more, which again, I kind of looked into a little bit, at least just, checking out their social medias and, see how many people they got following. I mean, they got like 10, 15,000 people following on all the various social media platforms, which, it's not huge numbers, but when I know at least, I think their sort of premier service is like a $5,000 package to help people find a new job or something like that. That, if they have like 15,000 people following them, again, if you assume that only some small percentage of those people are buying that package on a regular basis, then I mean that's still pretty decent money. And on top of that, they have a lot of different other offerings and various courses you can pay for, etc. So, it seems like they're probably doing pretty well for themselves. But as I dug a little deeper, just standard Google searching, right? You start to uncover some of the common complaints, you typically see with some of these online businesses where people are like frustrated at not getting the support that they felt that they were promised in their pitch, or complaining about that, the sales process was very pushy and whatnot. And again, even though I'm sure based on, I read these people's comments like complaining about, I talked to this sales guy and he was just doing this, doing that to try to get me to sell. And like everything they were saying was like, these are just common sales tactics. I mean, in terms of, how you persuade somebody to make a decision to purchase your product. And it's not, some people, view that as like sleazy or whatever, but at the end of the day, it really just comes down to, I mean, is the product they're selling, does it actually have value? I mean, is it actually going to deliver on whatever the outcome or the result is that you are looking for? And again, if they're offering a service to help you find a new job, because that's what you want to do, and because you're unhappy with what you're doing currently, you want to find a new job. This is a company that has an established track record, plenty of testimonials, can clearly show you that it seems that their framework, their process, whatever is reasonably, I'm not saying it's like 100% successful. I'm sure it's not. Nothing is, but seems like it's reasonably successful. Then, frankly, forking out $5,000 to get some help, again, if that's where you're at, I mean, that should kind of be like a no-brainer, because if it means that you would be able to transition from either no job, making no money, or from maybe a lower paying job to something where you're making significant amounts more money, then, I mean, you'll pay yourself back relatively quickly. Anyway, I'm not trying to like defend these people or whatever, but it's just, again, common complaints you see. And again, I'm sure this company probably has like thousands of customers on the order of, and if you can find that there's 50 or 100 people on some Reddit chat that are, talking shit about them because they don't feel like they were treated right, then I mean, that's, a small fraction of people that are probably upset with what they were doing. I mean, some people did complain that they felt they were sort of, it seemed by what they were saying, like they were asking for legitimate refunds before they'd ever used the service, and apparently were basically being ignored by the company, which I think that is a little bit scammy. I mean, I think if somebody, comes back to you within days of ordering a thing and it's just like, whatever, I just really don't feel good about doing this and I would like a refund, I mean, you should just give them a refund. I mean, what's the big deal? Like, again, I'm sure that's like a relatively small, very small percentage of the customers that you're selling to that would be asking you that. And so why, I don't understand, if this is all true, I don't understand why you want to just be like, yeah, just give them a refund. Like, what's the big deal? I mean, if that keeps that one person off of Reddit and various other forums, shit talking you, then that seems to be a very worthy, not even investment, but just a very good decision of how you should be running your business. But again, I don't know the details. What people say on the internet's is always at least 50% bullshit anyway. So kind of have to take everything with a little bit of a grain of salt. But the point of saying all that was just to kind of indicate that, well, I guess frankly that I recognize that PhDs or just engineers in general, they are certainly not the easiest crowd to sort of please, especially when it comes to career-oriented types of things. And even though I think that there are some big kind of epiphanies that I've had in my own career that I think others would certainly benefit from, I don't know that many people coming from my background would frankly really care, because a lot of us honestly just prefer to figure things out on our own, and if that means it's going to take us longer or make us work harder, I guess we almost view that as a badge of honor of like, hey, yeah, I figured this shit out on my own, and I don't need to just pay some dude to give me the shortcut sort of thing. And you could say, well, that's a poor perspective to have, and maybe you could come up with a good marketing campaign and sales process to try to get, break through some of those poor beliefs on their part. But it's just a question of like, do I really even want to do that? I mean, it's just like if people are really not that interested. I mean, because I remember listening to, I think Myron Golden is a guy who has a business sort of selling, I guess he does coaching or whatever for other small businesses with like using biblical principles or something of how you grow your business or something like this. It seems like a cool dude. He was at Funnel Hacking Live. I saw him speak there, and seems pretty straight up and legit. And I'm not sure if it was at Funnel Hacking Live or one of his online videos that I watched, but he made the comment that even though he's a very good salesman and he knows like all the tricks, if you want to call them that, or all the, tactics for how you, again, work to persuade people in the direction you want them to go. He seems to be very good at all of that, but at the end of the day, he's like, I rarely kind of use any of those, because my point of view is that if by all the like free content I'm putting out and everything that people see me do, if they've gone through all that and they kind of see what I'm about and they just decide I'm not a good fit for them, or they don't really want to work with me, then I'm not going to try to give them a hard sell to try to buy my whatever package that I'm selling. It's like, I'll just tell them that they need to go work with somebody else, because if you've got some qualms about the way I do what I do, then I'm obviously not the right fit for you, and that's totally cool. You move on, I'll move on. There's plenty of other people to share his message with, right? So, that's kind of the place I guess I would like to be with, my business, of being in an area where I feel that if I'm really putting everything I can into the content I'm putting out and then explaining clearly what I'm offering to people, that I don't want people like struggling to figure out, oh my God, is this where I should be spending my money? Like, I just want it to be like clear, like either yes, you definitely recognize that this product, this service, whatever, is definitely for you, and you're probably going to be you would willingly pay whatever the price is, and you'll be happy with doing that, or you'll just be like, yeah, whatever, I don't like how Kyle talked about this thing or that thing, or I don't think he knows what he's talking about, I think he's an idiot. That's totally cool too. Then please don't buy any of my stuff and go off and solve your own problems if that's what you want to do. Like, that's where I want to be. So then the question is, well, if I'm again targeting an audience that's more or less just a bunch of real hard asses in terms of how they generic, and I'm painting with broad strokes here, but generally people that don't really like to seek out help and support in what they're doing, then that means the just sheer quantity of people that are not in that majority of people and are actually willing to get some help. But then there's only going to be a small fraction of that minority who, again, might feel comfortable working with me specifically, just for whatever biases they're bringing into the equation. That just, again, winds down to a very small pool of people, like beyond the point of where, again, people say you should definitely niche down to a very focused audience, and that will help in all your marketing stuff. Like, I think there is a limit to that, because I mean, at the end of the day, it's still a numbers game, and unless I was selling something that was whatever $100,000 product or service, and I would be happy selling 2, 3, 4, 5 of those a year, and so I could get super, narrowed on who my potential customers would be. I mean, sure, then you can get like laser focused on who you're targeting, but that's not what I'm planning to do. So I still need to be in a market where there is significant quantities of people that I think would even be interested, and that's where I'm just not sure the thing. And the second piece of this, and I'm going to wrap this up because I don't want to go forever here, but it's still back to the question, as I brought up earlier, is like, is this really something I'm passionate about? Which again is something that Russell Brunson and others bring up, that because this is really a grind and doing all this stuff, it's like if you're not super like deeply passionate about whatever it is you're trying to offer, and you don't feel like a clear, legit like moral duty almost to get your message or your product or your service out to the masses, then it's probably not going to last very long, because even if you get some sales or whatever, there will always be a point that you're going to reach where you're like, man, this is just shitty for whatever reason is. And if you don't have that kind of deep personal, like deep personal motivation in terms of what you're offering and what your product is, then it's just going to become so painful in a way, I guess. I don't know how else to describe it. And so I, again, often sort of go back to those thoughts of like just asking myself, like, okay, again, I'm already sacrificing a lot currently, even though legitimately, I mean, on a weekday basis, I might get in an hour, 2 hours of real work into this business, a little bit more on the weekends, but there will come a time when obviously I'm going to have to ramp that up as I actually start rolling things out. And so at that point in time, when things do get even more stressful, just in terms of I've got limited time to do all this and whatever, like, I need to be sure I'm doing something that, again, I have like deep personal motivation to do. And again, that motivation just can't purely be, I just need to make more money. I need more money in my bank account, because that only ultimately gets you so far. So anyway, I had some other ideas of things, other potential businesses I've pondered, but I won't really get into that here today because I've already gone long. So I don't know. We'll see. I mean, again, I feel I'm reluctant to just give up this and move on, just because I've already done that a couple times, and there is something about sticking to a plan, at least seeing it play out to a certain degree before you decide to pull the plug and then pursue something different. So I don't know. I don't have all the answers. I'm just trying to figure this whole game out and how I can do. I mean, I will point out that, again, Alex Hormozy, another virtual mentor of mine, I guess you could say, just by reading his book and listening to his podcasts, one thing I think about when he got started was, again, he was at a place where he had a good paying job, at least good paying for somebody that was fresh out of college, and decided he just really hated that and wanted to do something different. So what did he do? He picked something that, number one, he already had a fair amount of experience doing, just in terms of he wanted to run a gym, and he knew a lot about gyms because, he grew up in gyms or whatever. He's a very fit dude, is my point. And though he had no business experience, he at least knew the ins and outs of a gym and working out, and he probably felt pretty confident he could train people to work out or to lose weight or whatever. And that's the field he decided he wanted to go into, and he just said, well, I don't know if this is going to work out for me, but it's at least something I just personally like doing, and I could easily see myself doing this, 10, 12, 14 hours a day, no problem, because it's just something I personally enjoy. And that's what I'm going to go do. And, he certainly went through a lot of shit in the early days of getting things off the ground. But I think at least something that helped him was the fact, again, that he was in a comfortable place, at least in the sense of it was doing something that he was already very comfortable with being around. Again, being in gyms, working out, training people, helping people lift weights, lose weight, whatever. And so, anyway, that's just another side thought that, whatever, adds to the whole discussion. So anyway, I'm going to end it there. So hope you're all doing well. Keep on kicking ass, taking names, and I'll talk to you next time. Peace.